This is the preliminary or first engine flush I'm going to do of, I'm sure, very many. Right now we're just flushing out what we can without getting any of the casting plugs or freeze plugs out, or whatever you want to call them. So when I see how much stuff I can get out of the block as is, then we'll start pulling out some freeze plugs, see what we can do. So I've got two of these freeze plugs out. As you can see, obviously that top one and the bottom one. A little bit of stuff came out from the bottom. The color changed a little bit, but the top one, but this bottom one, man, I mean, it is solid full of crap. So we're definitely gonna have to remove this other one. Let's see if I can get it out without pulling the distributor. Okay. So I'm just drilling a hole. Now I'm using the corresponding punch here to stick in there and pry it out. I don't know if you could quite tell from that first part there, but man, yeah, crazy amount of stuff is coming out of these holes. All right, so down inside here is where it is. Got it to move just a hair. There we go. And I'm gonna guess that's where the majority of our crud is gonna come out at. Luckily, all these freeze plugs are really solid. They weren't rusted through, and they're quite thick along the whole bit there. So I don't think we're gonna have to worry about a lot of rust like eating through things in this engine. We just need the solid crud out of there. So do some more flushing, see what we can get out. Now you can't see it very well, but it's working a pretty good job. There is some nasty, nasty crud coming out of there. All right, so I'm gonna flush this out the best I can to get all the solid chunks out. And then what we're gonna do after that is run one of my favorite products, which is Evaporust. I'll put all the freeze plugs back in, put the water pump in, and we'll actually run the car to get rid of the rest of the rust inside there. It's a rainy day and the Plymouth is outside because I was flushing the coolant system out. So we're gonna do some inside work, and that's gonna be making a new thermostat housing or water outlet. The original one that I had, well, the base of it is still right here, and it was just completely rusted off. There was no saving it at all. When I went to pull the top radiator hose off, it just took all of that with it for the most part. You can buy these. They are extremely overpriced, so I decided I would make one, not because it's the better option, but because I got a new welder that I want to test out. So we'll have plenty of time to do that because we've got to do 1, 2, 3 welds at least, and then a 4th surface weld if we want to do a bead here at the top. So I've just got some, honestly, this is just exhaust pipe, and I have it all in various sizes so we can step down to the perfect original size of the water outlet here to match the radiator hose. So this one is a press fit into here. These two are a press fit. All I've got to do is a couple tacks around this, and then I can get to actually welding. So this will be the first time I've ever welded anything with this welder right here. I just have a small bottle of argon hooked up. We've got our flow set to 20. I'll take a quick gauge measurement of what this is, and I'll probably go with whatever the factory specs are. And we'll see how this thing welds. Yeah. All right, so my starting and stopping definitely needs a little bit of work, but I'm pretty impressed with this welder. It definitely is better, a lot better than I am. So the settings were pretty well dialed in. I think I turned the speed down just a hair, but yeah, looks pretty good to me. I mean, good enough for, you know, what I'm going to be using it for. Now I think I'm going to go ahead and do a bead at the top. Well, as soon as it quits raining, I'm going to go out here and stick in these temporary expansion plugs. These are going to let me flush the block out really thoroughly several times with the Evaporust, and then once that's done, we'll put in these permanent plugs here. So I guess I'll put a part number in the description just in case, but this engine does use a specific type of freeze plug. You don't want to use the regular deep ones that are more modern, because there's not enough room inside the block there. You'll hit the cylinders. But anyway, so we're gonna stick these things in there. I only pulled out 4 freeze plugs, 2 on the left, 2 on the bottom. We have the one more on the top at the back that I'm not gonna worry about. So we'll be able to expand these things in the casting holes, tighten them down, flush the block for as long as we want to, pull these back out, flush it again, and then if it looks good, we'll put in permanent plugs. If we still need to keep going, that's the benefit of these guys right here. We can just plug them right back in and flush it again. Here's the water neck thermostat housing that I made a little bit ago. Like I said before, I am definitely not a welder, but the welds are good enough, so it'll be just fine. So good penetration. I've definitely got to work on my starts and stops. You can see my welds are pretty good, but starting and stopping is my problem there. But yep, as soon as the rain goes away, stick those freeze plugs in, get a thermostat housing on, and then I did clean out the original radiator, so hopefully it'll hold enough water to be able to do a flush. I don't know if I'll use it long term. I would really like to use one of those new fancy aluminum ones, because they really do work better. I've put them in several things and they seem to work great. The only ones I've been able to find, though, that say they fit my car have the port right here in the middle, right where this fan shroud is. So I don't really know what I'll do about that, because I haven't decided if I'm going to convert to 12 volt yet. If I convert to 12 volt, then I'll put a electric fan on there. Well, all right, I've got a fuel line ran from the fuel pump down through the car here, and that fuel pump should work okay because just rebuilt it the other day. I tested it out and it did suck fuel up from this can, so should be good. And the engine actually ran really great with that crappy old carburetor the other day. without even cleaning it. So I am going to rebuild it at some point, but not right now. Right now we're just going to see if we can run some Evaporust through this thing. Yeah, I was really surprised that this thing did run without messing with the carburetor, just filling the bowl up. It actually pulled fuel, and the squirter even worked, which is just mind-blowing. Pretty cool, I guess. All right, that should be enough to run the thing. Go ahead and pour the rest of that gas down in there. All right, see if she'll fire up. Sorry, I know it's really sunny out here, but hopefully you can still see what's going on. All right, let's give her a go. Power to the coil, and here we go. Okay, you know it's funny? I forgot to put one of the oil lines back in. We just shot oil all over the place. Yeah, I had to remove the oil pressure tube to the housing there. So let me find that. Let's give it another shot. Okay, here we go. Man, it's so quiet. All right, so far our temperatures are good. We're in the 150s on the cylinder head. Yeah, so far we're doing okay. I'm hoping we can just keep cooling in this thing. Wow, yeah, it looks like the generator is currently working. Man, that is crazy. Good bit of smoke coming out of here. And I've got a suspicion that it's coolant. I really hope it's not, but the amount of just smoke back here kind of leads me to believe that it is. I mean, it could be something else, but definitely too thick and steady to be oil, I'm pretty sure. Doesn't smell like oil. I guess it could be rat guts. Rat guts are a possibility. Take a look in here again, show you guys what's going on. So here's our amps. Temperature and oil pressure. I don't know if you can tell, but oil pressure definitely is working. And our temp gauge started down by the sea, so I know it's working. All right, well, I'm gonna let this thing run for a while. We'll see what happens. This is with the charger unhooked. We're at 7.3 volts. Well, we ran the Plymouth for an hour yesterday, and then it's been sitting overnight. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look at our coolant level to figure out if that smoke is coolant, and then one step further, I'm gonna pull all the spark plugs out before I turn it over today. So if that is indeed coolant that's making all that smoke out of the exhaust, then we definitely have coolant in the cylinders today after sitting, and we want to get that out of there. So that's what we're going to do. Check the fluid level, and then pull all the spark plugs out, and we'll turn it over, see if we shoot any coolant out of them. Wow, okay. Well, I don't know if you can tell. Probably not. The coolant level is just half an inch, if that, under the radiator cap, which is pretty much where I left it yesterday. So that's interesting. Okay, I'm not really super concerned about how the spark plugs look, but go ahead and take a look at them real quick. I know they're probably going to be nasty, just covered in all kinds of crap. Let's see if we have any obvious coolant on any of them. So far, not yet. Just nice and black like they're supposed to be. Okay, all right, let me hook up my helper here to turn this engine over. See what kind of stuff comes out. Okay, that thing came out. That's a good sign. The only thing I could smell was fuel, which I'm not worried about. I know this carburetor is not doing what it should. It's quite gross, and I'm going to rebuild it later on. So we'll get the spark plugs back in here, and then we'll fire this thing up today. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and fill the bowl, even though it sounds like the squirter is working this morning. All the fuel from the fuel line is now out because I just rerouted it, moved it all around. Let's see if it'll warm up on its own. Be cool if I don't have to mess with anything. But I've got the fuel here on standby if I need to. I don't even think it turned over fully before it fired off. That's fantastic. See if it'll smooth up a little bit when it warms up here in a second. All right, interesting sign here. We don't have any smoke this morning or anything compared to what we did yesterday. So yeah, I'm wondering if that exhaust is full of deceased rats. You know, and all that smoke was like, you know, stuff heating up and actually burning. I've had that happen one other time on a car revival that sat for a long time. I had to pull the exhaust and empty it out. At this point, we've had Evaporust in the Plymouth here for about 3 days. A little bit longer than that, maybe, I guess. I put it in on Friday, and here we are Monday. We did 6 hours of run time at least. That's at least how much I timed it. And this thing has had the Evaporust in it long enough, so we're going to go ahead and drain it out, do a full flush. I'm going to make a little manifold out of brass fittings and stuff like that to do a really, really good flush on this thing. We're going to try to flush it from all the different points, from the cylinder head, from the water pump, and then I think I have the correct adapters to flush it down there from the block drain, which is right behind the oil tube right here. So after we do that, then I'm going to pull this thing into the shop, and we can start pulling the engine apart, rebuilding the carburetor and stuff like that. But I want to make sure the block is fully flush and I'm done with all that stuff, so we can pull the engine apart. And then it'll be a minute before this thing runs again, because there's quite a bit of stuff that I want to do now that I feel decently confident in the condition of the bottom end. So yep, we'll get to work. Oh, also, good note, it looks like we really didn't lose coolant. So the coolant level is pretty much where we left off. I'm just going to make a thing here. I went down to Ace Hardware and bought a bunch of random fittings to build a little manifold thing so we can flush coolant back and forth in the engine, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, here is the coolant flushing manifold that I've got here. At the end, we've got an inlet with a valve from the water hose down to a 5/8 barb, down to a T, and then we have 2 ball valves on either end. It's all 5/8 barb, so it'll match the heater hose. And then the only special piece that I had to make, and I hope I got this right, is a 3/8 MIP to 5/8 barb, and that is what's going to flush from the bottom of the block upward. From factory, your car, your flathead Chrysler should have a petcock down there. Mine doesn't. It just has a plug. So hopefully I picked the right thread. I didn't measure it. I just kind of eyeballed it. But I would like to be able to flush from the block up. So we can flush from the head, we can flush from the water pump, and hopefully from the block. And then I'm just going to loop. I'm going to take the radiator out of the equation because I'm not super worried about flushing it. I'm hoping to replace it. So anyway, yeah, anything that's caught in the radiator, I don't want to risk flushing it back to the engine, so we're probably just going to take it out of the equation, and I'll loop from the radiator outlet on the water pump to the cylinder head where the thermostat housing is. But I'm going to get all this hooked up, and we'll get to flushing out this nasty crap, and hopefully you can see how well that Evaporust works by how gross this stuff is that comes out. It's usually black and stanky. All right, I'm going to try to pull out this block drain here on the bottom first. Looks like it's already loose. I did not tighten it, so that's good. All right, we'll see if anything comes out. It was completely solid with rust before. It took quite a bit of work to get anything to come out of this. So let's see if we get anything out. Nope, it's completely plugged solid. Full of crap, which isn't surprising. I think, you know what, I may run the engine a little bit. Maybe I'll warm this thing up and get this crap flowing. No, you know what? Let's just try to get it out here. Okay, I'll leave this plug out, and then I'll poke around down in that hole with a screwdriver or something, see if we can loosen it up. Eventually, I am going to pull all of the freeze plugs because we're going to back flush, and I want to make sure we get proper flow out of all of them. But since this is the lowest one, let's see if we can get anything out of this. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, gross. It is green and brown and getting all over the tripod. Oh man, it smells so bad. Oh great. Now my freaking camera lanyard is destroyed. Oh dude, it's gross. Super, super nasty stuff. And it smells awful. It usually does smell terrible. Whatever this Evaporust turns the rust into, smells awful. For the block drain, we've got that 3/8 adapter right there. That's going up to 5/8 barb. And then I just have a hose on it here. I'm just going to put this hose somewhere out on the ground. But that'll help us to flush this section right here outward and not get coolant all over the distributor. And also, we can hook the hose up to it and we can back flush from the bottom. All right, here we go. First, we're going to go from the back of the block. So I've got that open now. We're filling up the engine only. And we should start, there we go, flowing out the water pump. Take a look at that stuff. Green and gross. Remember, this isn't coolant. So that green is all the liquefied rust. Everything went in pretty much clear. So we're coming out the bottom drain there and the water pump. So it's flushing from the back of the block, back there forward. Hopefully this will make getting that water distribution tube out a lot easier. Let this run for a good while, at least till it turns clear, and then I'll switch the valves. I'll open this valve and I'll close that one, and we'll be flushing the other way around. One thing you could do, obviously, is disconnect that end right there, and we could actually flush out of the cylinder head, which we will do here in just a bit. I'll go ahead and disconnect that tube right there and just let it vent out of that one. So. Okay, looking pretty clear now. All right, so I'm gonna go back and forth and flush this system out all the different directions. And I could video all of it, but it's really bright outside, so getting a good camera angle in here is kind of hard, and it might be kind of boring. So I'm gonna go ahead and flush this, and yep, that's what I'll be doing for about an hour or so. I finished flushing out the engine block. Got it as clean as it's gonna get for now. Still have some green residue inside there. A little bit of stuff that looks like rust, but I'm sure we'll do some more flushes later on. We got tons and tons of nasty stuff out of there. As you can see, I've got the new copper and brass expansion plugs or core plugs installed. They're kind of cool. I don't know how long these things are gonna last or not leak. I just thought they looked really neat. So that's really the only reason I installed them. After this, I'm sure I'll do another block flush at some point, and then I'll put in the actual, core plugs that are supposed to be in there. That's going to wrap up this portion of the 54 Plymouth Belvedere video. In the next video, we'll actually be tearing into the engine and doing some internal work. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Thanks for watching.